Okay, thank you. I'm Chuck LaShawn. I'm Deputy Health Officer and Director of Environmental Health. I actually came out of retirement for 5 years. I actually had a great retirement. But when I talked to Denise and I saw her activities here in the district and what she is doing here, and public health being in my blood, I decided to come out. And the second reason is this part of the state, the entire district, Mayo, West Branch, Oscoda, Tawas, this whole area has been a second home to me my entire life. So you put the public health, local public health together, and the love of this area, and somebody like Denise who does a lot for this area, and she's unrelenting when it comes to local public health. The decision for me to do that, to come out of retirement, was very easy. Next slide. To give an example, Denise has gone after money, and I know this time and time again, to help the area. She just got $100,000 that Chris alluded to earlier in her presentation. $100,000 for filter replacement and water cooler continuation. So she's done a lot in that area, and she will continue. She's talked to local legislators, state legislators, and federal, trying to get assistance and help to keep this moving along and to get assistance for everybody in the community. Next slide. Just to give you a quick timeline of events, I'm not going to spend much time on this, but these are things as local health department that we do. We keep track of the health advisory board meetings, town hall meetings such as this, the RO filters. We keep track of how many water coolers, people who are contacting us and want the water coolers and the ROs and want their water tested. This was all brought out earlier with Chris and Bob as well. So we keep track of these things. This was 2016. If anybody wants these slides, please feel free to get a hold of us. In the next slide will show 2017. We're maintaining, this is through April. Again, we keep track of the filters, the coolers, funding, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Next slide. Alternate water supply funding. Again, that was talked on by Chris somewhat, but at this point, as of mid-April, the RO systems, 82 of them, and the in-home water coolers, 22, so it's about a 4-to-1 ratio of ROs to water coolers. We have 11 ROs pending and 2 water coolers for a total of $110,000 plus for alternate water supply systems at this point. Municipal hookups, completed 6 for a total of $5,100. One resident impacted by lab exceedance hooked to municipal as well. Acknowledgement and release, that's been an issue that's been brought up. Partially, we understand from when the attorneys, a couple of attorneys were here a while back and there was a meeting about acknowledgements and release. The release is only for the RO systems. If there was an issue, for instance, in the house with those RO systems, it holds harmless the local health department because we are part of it technically, but on the other hand, we're gathering the information and getting in touch with Culligan and setting them up. We are sort of the go-between person or agency between Culligan and you people. So we are setting this up, and so that's all that's for. If you didn't want to sign the release, then you could still get a water cooler, but you couldn't get an RO system. But so far, that hasn't been a problem. But we wanted to address this because a couple people did mention it. Next step is, again, the RAB board, Restoration Advisory Board, was mentioned just briefly earlier. I applied for that for the District Health Department. I would probably be the first representative. Denise would be a backup representative, but I plan on being on that board. The EPI study, again, Chris alluded to that as far as human study and epidemiological studies. That was mentioned a while back. Chris mentioned it again today, and possibly something may be done, hopefully, in the future on that, because it was mentioned. You can go to the DHD2 website, dhd2.org. It has a lot of information on there, contact people, information, phone numbers, and information about and trying to keep up. We try to put everything on there as timely as possible. So anything you need, if you can't get a hold of somebody, you got a computer, you can go on there and get a lot of information. So, are there any questions? Yes, in the back. Yeah, I don't have a comparison. I don't know what the comparative cost is between this area and another area, and Culligan's not here, so I'm sorry I can't answer that for you. Yeah, well, it's the Culligan person that represents this area, and why they're charging so much, I don't know. I didn't know they were, but that's something we can look into. Yeah, we can look into that. Yes. Well, if it were up to the local health department, we would have had water lines down there yesterday. And I agree with you. The ROs, the water coolers are a Band-Aid. That is temporary. Bottled water, any of that. We started out with bottled water, and some of you may have been hauling water in the 5-gallon containers. Yes, that's all temporary, and until we can find out a better solution. But that was the best solution for at least right now, and it is. You're right. It's a Band-Aid for now. And we're going to keep moving forward, and I know, again, Denise is going to be relentless on this, on putting pressure on the appropriate agencies to do what we can for municipal water or whatever we can do. Yes, in the back? Pardon me? Are you working on plans already? We wouldn't be doing that. That would be something that would be done through probably the state as far as plans for municipal water and the township. In the back, ma'am? Well, I just mentioned that earlier, that it's just hold harmless. That's something that our legal counsel recommends, that we have a hold harmless, because if something happens to the RO system, you can deal with Culligan on that, but it just holds harmless to the local health department. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Yeah, and that's an excellent question, and that's something as we start replacing them, even before, that we're going to be addressing. We'll talk to Culligan on that, definitely.
All right, thank you, Chuck. Moving along here. Our next presenters are Ann Richards and Aaron Weed from Oscoda Township.
Please do so. Okay, again, my name is Ann Richards. I'm the Community Development Coordinator for Oscoda Township. I don't know if it's an appropriate time to say or not, but I just thought I would mention my address is, what is my address? 6185 North US 23. I do live in the area of concern, and I wanted to share that with you. I'm also a taxpayer in this community, and I work for this township, and I care very much about everybody in here. So I'm not just an employee of Oscoda Township, so I did want to share that. Okay. At the October meeting, we did give information in regard to the first area of concern and a grant that the township secured from the USDA. That area of concern was first identified on the west side of Vanetton Lake. It's kind of hard to see, but there were 3 roads that were involved. Rose Lane, also been referred to as the Whispering Pines Trailer Park, Forest Drive, and Vanetton Dam Road. The funding source, again, was the USDA EWAG grant, and that amount that was secured was $500,000. I'm now providing an update in regard to that, and basically the engineer has completed the topograph survey and preliminary design phases for the project. You can go ahead and switch, sorry. For the project is now in the final design and permitting easement acquisition phase, and bidding will occur when the permit and easements are in place. We anticipate construction to be as soon as sometime this summer of 2017, depending on the legal status of the easements. So from here, I'm going to pass it over to Aaron Weed, which is the Township Supervisor, and he's going to be updating you on what else Oscoda Township is doing on behalf of its residents.
Thank you. Of course, everybody knows that we last year secured a grant for $500,000 to do those extensions. That should be done this year as long as everything goes good with the easements. We've been advocating, we've already started the advocation process with legislators to get some action on this. This is going to take a whole lot more than what we've got going on here in our 2 townships. That's all that I've already had discussions with Sue Aller. She's ready to go on this. Dan Kildee was here last week. He's heard our concerns and what we would like to have done on this, and I think he's handled that quite well. And of course, Senator Stamas, I've had several conversations with him, and as we all know, he's passed that bill to seek action from the Air Force. Of course, we requested that the Air Force start this restoration advisory board. And we've sought to gather what the cost is to extend these main lines. Minimum cost for this is going to be $4 million, just for the main lines within the area of concern as defined by now. So as that area grows, then that cost is going to grow. I estimate it's going to be about $7 million. My goal in this is that that whole area get municipal water lines to the people. The other goal, my goal, is that it's 0 cost for the homeowner to connect to that main line. I don't feel that it is right that you're got to be forced off a well and have to pay to have that line to connect between the main and your house.
What about monthly cost?
Thank you very much. So we passed a resolution that outlined exactly what our game plan is and how we're going to tackle this and what we expect from the government, whether it's the state or the federal government. We don't care. We just want it taken care of. We also sent that off to all the surrounding communities, the townships and cities that all surround us, because they're all affected by this. Economically, they have people that come here that work. They've been drinking this water. People from AuSable come up, drink the water. People from Tawas come up, drink the water. People from other states have come here to visit and have drank that water. This is a nationwide problem just from Wurtsmith on its own. Thousands of veterans have been affected by this. Last night, we did vote in to complete a contract with a consultant. They're going to help us along on this project. I've made contact with the Michigan Environmental Council. They sent out a newsletter last winter. All this glorious stuff in there and the things they're doing and no mention of Wurtsmith. So I called them up and I said, hey, what about Wurtsmith? And they said, oh yeah, we're monitoring this. We're supporting Stamas in his bill. I said, well, did you know that this and that are all going on around here? And they said, oh, we had no idea. We've just been listening to the DEQ and what they're saying. I'm like, well, upper level DEQ seems to be downplaying some things. That's very disappointing. I was hoping that Flint would give us a boost to help out with things. Not seeing a whole lot of progress in that area. Trying to participate in the cleanup progress. Part of that was to attend BCT meetings, which is a BRAC cleanup team meeting. And we've sat in on a few of those meetings. Ann Richards, myself, Tim Cummings, and watched what's going on, asked some questions during it. Their last meeting, they kicked us out of it. That's very concerning. They cited a blurb in a DOD regulation as to why. I did not find anywhere in there that justified that. They said that it encourages frank discussion between the three agencies that are involved in that. Don't know why they don't want to have that frank discussion with us or why they would want that in a separate meeting. Nothing that says that that's a private meeting at all. So if anybody thinks I'm throwing them under the bus, sorry, that's my MO. We've also been working to obtain historical documents. They came and picked up the repository from the library, and we've asked for those documents back. They said no. Okay, the alternative is that they're going to get scanned in. Still waiting for that to be completed. Do you have a status on that?
All of our records that have been finalized are on the administrative record. That website is available. And we're putting everything else in the library, all the new stuff, and then we have a website we put that on too.
Okay. So I want to make sure everybody's clear. This is a top priority for me. And I will run this up the flagpole as hard as I can because we've got to have the support here. Camp Lejeune took them a long time. They finally got support for their contamination issues. We want the same considerations. Nationwide, every installation needs to be handled. I want to see an effort on the Air Force to stop digging their heels in and saying, well, CERCLA doesn't allow us to do this. We have a budget process that prevents us from doing that. I want to hear that they want to go above and beyond, that they want to know that, yes, this is going to become a bigger problem. PFHXS is going to be added to this soon. New Jersey's standard is going to be 14 parts per trillion, significantly less. To touch on that, I'm going to tell you what the Air Force's response to that was. Actually, I guess it's DOD's response. DOD is concerned that setting an MCL at such a drastically lower level could result in significant costs while failing to provide any measurable health benefit beyond that already provided by the 70 parts per trillion limit on EPA. That tells me money's the number one factor, and I don't think any of us think that our health should be detrimental to money. So one of my other goals is to get Michigan to lower that level. 70 parts per trillion is too high, but keep in mind, that's just the EPA's level. Apparently, Michigan's setting a new level for PFOA and PFOS, and I think that's at 80 and 90 parts per trillion, higher than the EPA's level. Here's the problem with the process. In Michigan, it's industry that dictates, who negotiates how that goes, not the government. In New Jersey, it's a government office that determines how that's going to go. They have enough scientific data to justify 14 parts per trillion. I don't see why we're not following that lead. Vermont is at 20 parts per trillion. So to put something else in perspective here, how many of you know about the birth control NuvaRing? NuvaRing operates, will completely stop somebody from getting pregnant at 35 parts per trillion. But it leaves your body pretty quickly. This stuff stays in. So if NuvaRing can do that, what's this stuff doing to you? Thank you very much.
I am so sorry, honestly. Or was that you?
I'll take a few questions. I have
Yeah.
to leave to go to Detroit tonight, so I won't be around for the questions later, but just a few. Yes. Correct. They can, yes. All it requires is they change out their carbon system more frequently. So, to tack onto your question there, here's another point that I want to bring about, because I'm glad you reminded me of that. We all know that this is all discharging out the AuSable River. Nobody knows, they know what the surface currents are, they don't know what the underwater currents are, that I could find anyways. So far, no indication that it's going to touch the intake of the municipal system. But if it does, they can change out their carbon more frequently, and that'll take care of the issue, according to the data that's out there right now. Can you bring up the DEQ slides? In slide 18. Yes. It's pretty much almost the same thing that the Air Force is doing, putting it through a whole carbon system. They put it through a deflocking. It's actually, I think, isn't that right, Christina? Our water's...
I'm sorry, you want this one?
Yes. No. Can you... oh, I thought it was 18. Back up.
That was the last one.
Go to slide 10. Oh, you're missing a part of it. That's why. You can just slide it over. All right. So we have this section here, which they're treating for PFAS, which they've been doing since 2015. Mind you, they've known that this contaminant's been here since I think, 1998. So 2015, they installed that system there. Well, these systems right here, which were pump and treat for volatiles and chloride cleaners, in 2012, wasn't it that DEQ told the Air Force you no longer have to treat for that? You can now turn into a pump and dump. So all these systems along here have been doing since 2012 is extracting the groundwater up, which is contaminated with PFAS, and they've been dumping it less than a mile down the road through the storm sewers at a rate of 350,000 gallons per pump per day. To put that in perspective, one water tower out there on the base holds 500,000 gallons. One leads into Van Etten Creek. Where's the other one? Right, well, it leads right into here. We also have the heavily contaminated Clark's Marsh. So far, I have not heard a single plan to treat anything coming out of Clark's Marsh. Right now, it looks like the plan is just stop it right here at the source, like somebody else asked about earlier, and let that drain out into the river. Not happy about that one either. Yes? When they're treating the volatiles, that brings the groundwater up. They have what they call a curtain. And so they stop, it's essentially to stop the groundwater flow, bring the contaminated water up, treat it, dump it down the other side of it so that anything continuing beyond that point is clean water. Yes? I'm sorry if it sounded like that, but yes, when I did contact them, at that point, it was like, I saw them hitting it hard. So yes, they have been doing fantastic, yes.
One thing I've been hearing here is all pump and treat. The soil's contaminated. And I don't care what the Air Force stands up there and says. Major Farman in the 1988 report, U.S. Air Force report, stated pump and treat is only good for water, and that if you leave the contaminated soil there, you're just peeing against the wind.
Yes, Mr. Rakowski.
I was just wondering if the township was considering putting carbon filtration on the municipal system that carries PFCs and delivers to the township? Is that something the township's considering doing?
No, the Hushra municipal system has carbon filtration in it.
It already does?
Yes.
Really?
Yep, they have several large tanks filled with carbon.
Are the pipes that carry that all asbestos stuff?
Not that I know of.
Better check into it.
Yep, I will. Yes?
Where's the water that comes in from the DeSable at Three Pipes?
Can you say that again?
Where does the water that dumps into the DeSable River at Three Pipes, where does that water come from?
That's coming from the fire training site, correct?
Three Pipes is coming. No, well, Three Pipes, Three Pipes is right here, this one right here. Fire training's over here. So this is drawing water from this part of the base. So there's plumes over here. And Three Pipes does have contamination in it.
Thank you very much. And just so you know, I do realize that this is a poisoning of the American people, and we want it taken care of now. Another 30 years of this is unacceptable.
Thank you, Aaron.